president of the autonomous Iraqi Kurdistan region has said his forces will not withdraw from the areas they've reclaimed from ISIL. That's in line with an agreement he claims was made with the US. That may prove problematic for the entire anti-ISIL coalition, though, as Washington appears to have other ideas. The leader's announcement, which comes as fierce fighting continues around Mosul, has also been met with opposition from Iraq's Prime Minister. RT's Gaine Chichikan reports.
The president of Iraq's Kurdistan region, Masoud Barzani, says he has an agreement with the U.S. and the Iraqi government that Kurdish forces will not withdraw from the lands that they reclaimed from ISIL before the beginning of the Mosul operation. Barzani apparently feels very strongly about it because he said, quote, "These areas were liberated by the blood of 11,500 martyrs and wounded from the Peshmerga. It is not possible after all these sacrifices to return them to direct federal control." End quote. 2 days before Barzani said this, he had a meeting with the U.S. ambassador to Iraq, who said he's confident Kurdish Peshmerga will withdraw from the areas. So what agreement was Barzani talking about? Was there an agreement? Did the ambassador and Barzani misunderstand each other at that meeting? Were they lost in translation? The State Department has not answered those questions. Instead, said this.
What matters to us is, again, that this campaign is led by Iraqi security forces, that it's all under Prime Minister Abadi's chain of command. That's what matters most to us. There is no doubt that the Peshmerga have been and continue to fight bravely against Daesh. No question.
Iraqi officials say the Peshmerga will have to leave. We've seen a situation in Syria this summer when Syrian Democratic Forces, led by the Kurds, helped liberate the city of Manbij and were asked to leave, all while the U.S. praised their fighting capabilities.
The Kurdish Peshmerga forces are demonstrating significant skill and resilience.
I want to recognize the heroic sacrifices of the Iraqi and Kurdish security forces and their martyrs and their families.
Committed, capable. The Kurdish forces are what we aspire to with respect to their Iraqi security forces in general. They show the will to fight. They show the capability to fight.
In Iraq now, judging by Masoud Barzani's latest statement, the Iraqi Kurds are determined to stand their ground. The question is, can the anti-ISIL coalition afford to dismiss the Iraqi Kurds' plans and ambitions, considering Kurdish forces are an essential part of the ground operations to liberate Mosul from ISIL?
Well, Richard Becker is from the Anti-War Answer Coalition. He says that while coalition forces in Iraq may have one common enemy, ISIL, they all ultimately have different long-term goals.
Now the U.S., of course, wants to defeat the Islamic State in Iraq, or at least drive them out of the major cities of Iraq and Syria. And up until this point, it appears that the Kurdish Peshmerga forces in Iraq and the YPG forces, Kurdish forces in Syria, have been the most effective fighting forces against the Islamic State in those two countries. But at the same time, U.S. allies, like its NATO ally Turkey, wants to prevent the emergence of a Kurdish state either in Iraq or in Syria because, of course, Turkey is home to the largest Kurdish population in the world, and the Turkish government under Erdogan is currently engaged in seeking to crush the Kurdish people inside Turkey and does not want to see the emergence of a Kurdish state, as I said, in either Iraq or Syria. What we're seeing is that while at the same time those forces, the Iraqi forces, special forces, militias, the Kurdish Peshmerga, and U.S. special forces, and others perhaps, are fighting against the Islamic State, they also are very much in disagreement about what should be the outcome if and when the Islamic State forces are defeated.
Well, as the battle for the city of Mosul continues, thousands of Iraqi refugees have had to flee and set up home at the Al-Hol camp across the border in Syria.
All those people are trying to escape. from ISIL, from coalition airstrikes, from Iraqi military forces.
It's so cold here. We don't have blankets, we don't have food. They don't give us anything.
It's difficult to get water. It's very bad here. We miss those close to us, our parents. We don't want to stay here. We want to return home.
The head of the Russian Orthodox Church says Donald Trump's foreign policy positions could pave the way for a joint fight against global terrorism. Patriarch Kirill spoke exclusively with RT's Daniel Hawkins.
Well, I met the Patriarch as he was preparing to mark his 70th birthday anniversary. We covered quite a lot of issues, really, in the interview. One of them, of course, being the election of Donald Trump, who's considered quite a controversial and divisive figure indeed by many people, both in America and around the whole world. And I certainly was interested in getting the Patriarch's opinion on the perspectives of Trump's presidency. He said he hoped that his election would pave way for a more collaborative, cooperative effort to fight the global threat of terrorism. Take a listen.
Judging by what Mr. Trump was saying during his campaign, he apparently has an intent to pave the way for dialogue with Russia, primarily regarding